It's a little after 9 and I want to be thoughtful of everybody's time and schedules, and we're not going to be taking any votes. So I think if there's any pushback on a quorum, then we're going to be okay. And it's a little after 9 and I want to be thoughtful of everybody's time and schedule. And I hate that guy's voice. Yeah, it's Back to the Future, Bill. If you will, I'll ask Senator Hickman, if he will, to open us with a prayer.
Lord Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord, and thank you that you give us the opportunities to meet, Lord, and that you got us up this morning, Lord. You gave us the breath of fresh air to breathe. Lord, we just thank you for this season, Lord. We thank you for your son that came, Lord, to save us from our sins, Lord, and give us eternal life. Lord, please be with this committee, Lord. Help us to make decisions, Lord, that will be best for the people of the state of Georgia. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Has everybody had a chance to read through the draft report provided by Senate Research? I think at the beginning, everybody's, especially those responsible for counting the beans and crunching the numbers, were a little nervous about the direction. And I tried to make it really clear that we understand that there's no way to take a big bite out of our budget and try to address these problems at one time, but not being completely aware of what the problem is or what may be available out there sometimes puts us at even a greater handicap. So the opportunity to at least look into these issues, and even if we get to the end of the road and realize there's really no good solution, at least we have put the effort out, the due diligence I think that we're required to do, especially when we're talking about what I feel is primarily important to me right now are the employees that work for the state of Georgia. And, we all came in this morning on good roads, and our children and grandchildren were being taken to good schools, and our state government was up and running. And that would not happen without that lowest common denominator, those hourly employees and those lower salaried employees that come in and do all the heavy lifting every day. And so I think we're responsible to those men and women who do that job to make sure that not only are they working in a safe environment, but that they're compensated to some degree to where they can live a good life and chase the proverbial American dream, as all of us try to do. So with that, I really appreciate, again, this committee coming together and being open-minded and being willing to listen to ideas, some seeming, very good ideas. And then every once in a while, I'm sure that myself or somebody else threw a harebrained idea in the middle of the whole thing. But I think all of us had the same intent to find a good, viable solution moving forward in these uncertain times. And once again, I want to thank Senator Nan Orrock for coming to us with this. And I want to thank her for trusting me when I told her she'd have a hearing, and she looked somewhat shocked because I guess she just didn't realize what a nice guy I was. But these types of things are the things that we need to have the conversations about. And so I had a couple of people reach out to me and wanted to offer additional testimony. And to maintain the rules, we do not accept any additional testimony on the last day of study committee hearings. What we do is we talk about the things that we've already talked about, and then we talk about the report that's here that we want to send forward to the lieutenant governor and beyond, so that we can start taking seriously some of these considerations that are listed in the report that we would love to see happen. And I remind everybody that if it is a piece of legislation you intend to propose and it requires an actuarial study, that is going to be a 2-year piece of legislation. It is nothing that would happen this upcoming session. So with that, I'll start with Senator Orrock. Have you had a chance to read through the draft proposal, Senator Orrock, the final report?
I'd like to spend more time on it. I've read the recommendations.
Okay.
On the final page, which are
okay.
really get to the meat of the matter.
Okay, what I was going to give everybody an opportunity, if you wanted to, is we'll delve into that and any additional insights anyone on the committee wants to bring forth, they'd be greatly appreciated so we can have it on the record. But with that being said, Senator Orright, what mic are you on?
I'm on 11.
We'll go ahead and listen to your opinion of the final report and also the any other things you would like to add.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And
And I'm sorry, when I say add, I mean to the conversation, not to the final report.
yeah, I understand. We're commenting any reflections on the final report, as well as any other points that might be germane. Well, I brought this bill, the study committee bill, to give us an opportunity to do exactly what we've done, and the chairperson has really expanded that in terms of taking a much deeper dive into the hearing from the departments, and I was particularly struck by the legislative council testimony. That was more than I had understood about the inner workings of that department, although we use them and rely on them every day. So I appreciate that whole facet of the study committee process. The study committee is to look at was originally designed to look at this question of state-sponsored, state-facilitated portable retirement savings programs. And it's an opportunity for us and for us as a state to really catch up, if you will, with what's going on across the country around this is our private sector employers and employees, and particularly it targets these smaller businesses that are not currently set up to offer a pension plan. So I've learned a lot in the course of the study committee about the scope of that work, and I applaud the chairman for bringing the AARP and their perspective and expertise into bring it to the table. They had a very rich presentation last time, along with Attorney Kramer, who's got a long history with pension plans. So I'm very pleased that we're would be signing off on these recommendations to implement that the state look at implementing a state facilitated portable retirement savings program. And I think 14 states are currently, if we in our folders, we have the report from the National Institute on Retirement Security, and the legislative map on page 3. I know we can't all read through everything that's handed to us, but that really paints a picture that their states are moving forward, and there's state efforts in a majority of the states, with some already out there in the dark green that are that have plans up and running. Virginia comes to mind, of course, our nearest sister state here in the South, and it's this report. If you take an effort to if you have an opportunity to look through the rest of it, it indicates this strong interest out there among the citizenry, if you will, in having an opportunity to save, and that when it's put in place in these states, they've got great responses, and it's totally nonpartisan. It's American families who want to have some security in the future, and this just documents. This has got some great statistics about over 70% of the public thinks that this would be a worthwhile thing to do, and would applaud it, would support it, would see it as a positive thing. And so that's the number one recommendation of the study committee work as the chairman has crafted this report for our consideration. And I really I really applaud the work of the committee and hope that we can take what we've learned and push forward on this direction to put the state in a position to do what small employers just simply don't have the bandwidth to do. And that is to utilize what we already have in place to give an opportunity for them to do direct deposits into accounts for employees. So that, I mean, that's a big takeaway for the private sector employees across the state, and the numbers. I mean, the statistics are compelling. I think that people would applaud this, and that when it's been put up and running in states with some different models, like being able to get a Roth IRA and deposit into it over your work life, and the fact that it travels with you. It's not, you know how people get tied to a job that's really they're miserable in, but they're vested and they're hanging in there. This kind of plan is designed to be portable and for your work life, no matter who your employer is. So I think the statistics are compelling, and it's great to see Georgia moving in the direction of putting something like this in place. Now, there's many a slip between the cup and the lip. There's a lot of details, and legislation would have to pass. I don't understand how the 2-year works. Is this the sort of thing that would also require fiduciary actuarial? I'm seeing a no there.
Yes. Well, as presented by the expert, there would be a startup cost on the state side. And that was where I was alluding to. Any money that would come from the state, an investment from the state, as we know, many times the reality's in the numbers. Somebody will come up and say,
That's right.
and I think in looking in his memo, he stated over 2 or 3 years range from 800,000 to 1.5 million. And so I think we're going to have to look, but I'll defer to the expert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, in terms of the 2-year process that the chairman was alluding to, that would be for our Georgia state plans, right? For a private sector plan, such as what you're talking about, I'm sure there would need to be any number of fiscal studies and whatnot to determine that cost, but it would not be subject to that same 2-year requirement that is a typical retirement bill for us, for the state.
Because that applies to the state
state's
employee
plans.
system.
Correct.
For those that are employed by the state.
Yeah.
And that's right. This is a horse of another color, as I
Right.
say.
But we would still probably need a fiscal note if there would be any investment on the state side.
Oh, I'm sure you'd want to
Yeah.
know what you were getting into. of
Exactly.
course.
Fiscal
So,
note,
yeah.
a fiscal note, but not
So it
necessarily.
might be accomplished in a
Not
single
an
year.
actuarial study, but a fiscal
Right.
note showing that the potential cost would to kind of pressure test the 800,000 to 1.5 million investment.
Exactly.
That would be the state side that would eventually be paid back according to the memo. But we would need to know what that initial investment would be for it to be approved by the two bodies during the budget session.
For sure.
And so that's different. That's not a 2-year lock-in.
That's
It's gotta
correct.
Be in our bosom of our committee for 2 years.
That's
or
correct.
whatever.
That's something that could be done this upcoming session. That's right.
Thank you for that clarification. I see the state auditor is giving a thumbs up on that as
If-
well. So that's. we've
If
got
these
good
two
information.
gentlemen are happy, we're all happy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that memo that you just referenced was a follow-up from our last meeting to just provide the more detail on the startup and the ongoing cost and payroll deduction for small employers issuing hard checks and the enrollment rates and the success of having an opt-out. In other words, it's available to you unless, and you can opt out. You don't have to do it. And it's voluntary for employers as well. So it's not force feeding anybody. It's really creating a structure that other states have already found success in doing. I'm hopeful we can see that go forward in this session. And that I should see if there's any. Oh, and you've got the recommendation on software, right? Enhanced investing in our software infrastructure to track the data.
To track the tens of thousands of state employees that when we ask for information on, it seems that there are 3 islands that all this information lays on. And those of you that know my background, I feed off efficiency, and it just seems to be extremely inefficient that I can't reach down to the experts and the experts can't turn to the left and grab what we need when it comes to how many state employees we have, what our investments are into each of those state employees, where they work, what they do, what the benefits are, and all this kind of stuff. I know that if I can call some of these smaller businesses, and when I say smaller businesses, I'm talking about businesses with 2, 3, 4, 5,000 employees, I can ask them how many employees they have and they can tell me. I can ask them what their operating expenses are and they can tell me, and I can ask them what their salary and benefit costs are. They can tell me. But apparently the state of Georgia, we can't do that because that information is divided and held in different areas and is not consolidated anywhere. And I think that's a concern because every thin dime, every shiny penny that we pay a state employee belongs to a taxpayer.
That's right.
And a taxpayer should be able to know exactly where all their money's going and who's it's going to and how much is being spent for the salaries of their employees and how much is being spent for benefits and other things that their employees have that we depend on to be able to get the best employees into the job. And those are the individuals I'm talking about, that if we look at something for those individuals that help us day in and day out, that there's a chance that we're going to have an actuarial study to look at something like that. If we decide to bring in this type of benefit for state employees also, because this is a type of benefit that can be used in conjunction with other programs. If somebody, in my case, where I started with a defined benefit and then it became a hybrid, and now it's a totally employee dependent benefit. If we can find one of these products that we could integrate into government too, I think we need to help as many people as possible. And I know, Senator, you said small business, and we know that small business makes up easily 90% of our economy, easily. And so this right here, these portable items like you're talking about are great. But for us to do something like that here in the state of Georgia, first thing we need to know is how many employees we have. And that's just not an easy question to answer, apparently. Or it hasn't been for me.
We have learned.
Hasn't been for me and those who have been doing the heavy lifting and trying to help me get that number. So that software, we do need to look at something somewhere to consolidate this information here in the state of Georgia. And I'm off my soapbox.
Well, I'll just say that in terms of the good news for Georgia, we're not where we could be, but the path has been cleared, and we've got models to go by. In terms of having retirement security possibilities for our. And I know when I was working on family medical leave, small business is considered 50 employees and under, I think is, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, could be off, but that's what I think the terminology is defined as. And that's countless businesses in Georgia. And also starting back in the 90s, they started telling us you're going to have, 6 to 9 employers or work for yourself, as the case may be. But it's a changing world, and this is a great, I think, tool to be in sync with how the economy and employers and employees are are working these days, and encouraging savings stabilizes families, teaches the next generation to save. And so I think we'd be doing the Lord's work to get Georgia closer to green. Right now, it's in the recent state efforts that have been made. We're in that category. So we're on the path, and we've got good models, and I think we could be poised to make sizable steps towards this right away with the will of the legislature. I can't imagine any governor that wouldn't sign it once we got it passed. Can y'all?
So many in the past who did not. Thank you, Sam. So Nico, what?
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this committee. I just probably the most eye-opening situation to me was several parts of it so eye-opening, but one of the most eye-opening parts to me was the turnover of employees in our state. And we had several commissioners or HR people come in and say that it was as high as 90%. I think one of them was like 98% in the juvenile justice system. And I think one of our big answers, and we kind of got it in the recommendations, is we need to determine how much it costs to keep people versus the turnover. And I'm not very proud of being a part of a state that has that kind of turnover. And I think if you go back and look at the pure number of employees, and I know that we had a drastic reduction in employees during the recession. And if you look at the state employees now in various departments, I think we got about half the number of state employees now that we had back in 2008. So I'm sure we're more efficient, but I think part of that efficiency has gone down because we're just not able to get qualified people that will stay here long enough. And that's a big concern of mine. I think go back to Senator Orrick's situation with the Ross retirements and that type of thing. I think one of the big things that we need to do as a state also is to help educate our people of the importance of retirement and the importance of saving for retirement, because that's what we end up with. People end up get to a point of 65 and I think I said this before, they like the word retired, but they don't know what it takes to be retired dollar wise. Right. And that's a big deal. But what I'd like to mention is that the big thing that when this committee started with Senator Orrick and mine and your discussion, Mr. Chairman, that we have gone 12 to 13 years now of our state retired people without a cost of living or an inflationary increase. And I think that's very challenging to us. It's very challenging because we now have state retirees that are on food stamps. And I don't think we need to be very proud of the fact that people that work for us for their time of employment, and now their retirement funds are not enough to take care of them when they trusted the state of Georgia to provide that for them. So I think that needs to be corrected. We are very proud of the fact that we've been the best state in the union, best state in the United States to do business in now for 8 straight years. And I think we need to look at that and do the same thing for our employees. We need to be the best state in the union in the state of the United States to work for also. So I'm excited about this. I agree with the recommendations. Actually reading them last night and this morning, there's a lot of recommendations, several recommendations in here that I didn't remember. But I'm glad that y'all remembered and other people remember. So I'm very proud of what we put together here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to point out on the, I think there was an article in the local newspaper a week or so ago that you directed me to that talked about an actuarial study that was done looking at the retired employees and cost of living adjustments and things of that nature. And that's something that we will get into once regular session starts back and we have those studies in front of us. We'll have conversations with the with those responsible for those areas and hopefully find some place, some light in there where we can look and attempt to help those retired state employees who are struggling. But I appreciate your passion for those people that have sacrificed a lot and now in their, since as as a retired person myself, I guess I can say it, in the latter stages of their working career, that they're struggling now, and that does not make me feel good knowing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, I'm a bit of a numbers guy. And I think one of the starkest numbers that we see in these reports is 50% of the Georgia state workforce doesn't have access to an employer retirement plan. So yes, many of them would like to see that the 75 to 80% of the workforce would welcome the opportunity to do that, but it's not there. And the other number is that somebody who has a workplace provided retirement plan is 15 times more likely to be saving than those who are not. So I think that really highlights the importance of the proposal to have a state-sponsored plan for people who are kind of falling through that very large gap. Was really pleased to see, I missed one of the meetings. I'm not sure how much it was discussed in the meetings, but I was really pleased to see in the recommendations, the comments about financial literacy. Just looking at my experience with the state employees savings plan, we have a very wide range of knowledge about financial issues among our workforce. And so to ask them to save and manage their investments in a savings plan is a challenge for many of them. It's something that they haven't had to do before, they're not properly trained for. And I think it's not going on a limb to say that many people in the state workforce beyond, the private sector workforce are in that same position. And so to highlight the need for financial education, and to me, it should start, early on. We're talking middle school, high school level issues where, kids coming out of, their secondary school education should know basic things like what is a stock, what is a bond, what's the difference, how do you balance your checkbook, how do you manage a credit card, all of those kinds of things that in many cases are kind of lacking right now and would be part of the skill set necessary to be successful in participating in one of these programs. So I'm happy to see that as sort of an addendum to the main idea of having that plan in place to begin with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, appreciate the opportunity to participate on the committee. As I read through the recommendations, they are reflective of the testimony that we've heard and the issues and challenges that we heard in those previous sessions. Not to, and understand, I don't want to provide testimony, but I can, as an agency head in the state, I definitely feel the same pressures that from the group with respect to salaries and benefits that we heard on day one. Turnover is up, it's higher than normal. And it's a challenge to attract and retain folks in today's environment. So I definitely can relate to that. The recommendations, again, I think address a wide range of issues, both from the private sector and for state government. So I think, again, we cover the waterfront. And the chairman knows this. There was an actuarial study done to price out the cost of what COLAs would cost the state for the employees' retirement system. So again, I think the chairman alluded to this earlier, that'll be discussed, I think, in the upcoming session. It's a big number. It is a rather large number, but that actuarial study was completed. And if there's a fiscal note that you would like on any of these, I'd be glad to work with you to get that started, because those will come through my office as well. So I think that's it. So thank you again for being able to participate.
the amount of credibility y'all bring to the study committee with your knowledge and your unemotional focus on numbers, which is what it has to be. We have to look at it in stark reality and not allow our emotions and our heart to get in the way of, and when the numbers are too big, they're too big, and we can't just write a check, and speaking of that, to age myself, I remember in elementary school where I had to learn how to write a check, and nowadays it doesn't happen there. And I'm having to educate my own children, adult children, on little nuances of the importance of putting money in an instrument and forgetting about it, and acting like you never had it to begin with, in hopes that in 30 years it'll be something. And we're in a very impatient place right now in society where people don't want to wait on that. All right, I see Blake's up from the university to educate all of us on his ideas and thoughts. If you're ready, we'd love to hear from you. John, I'm sorry, John, I apologize.
Yeah, I just want to thank the chairman and everyone. Can you guys hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody. I thought this was a really productive group. I was excited to participate, and I thought the report looks fantastic and summarizes what we covered. The only thing that I would just reiterate, because of my role on the committee, is I don't think the report was very didn't speak precisely to whether where it was going to be opt in or opt out. And in the end, I don't know that that's a big deal. I just want to say that I think the research would say that if it was opt out, it would be better used. But I think, some of the things in the report kind of get at, like, we'll benchmark to other states, and we'll benchmark to what the constituents want. And probably that, the opt-in versus opt-out question will get answered that way. But that's all I wanted to say. I appreciate everybody's time and efforts.
Thank you, John. We appreciate yours, and I do agree with you. I think as we move forward, and I'm leaning in the same direction you are as far as the opt-out measure. The same way we were talking about educating the younger folks that if we sometimes people won't take the time to opt out, and then in a few years they'll realize they have something really valuable, and even dive deeper into the instrument and try to find other ways to save also. So I do agree with you on that, and I do appreciate it. Is there anybody else on the study committee that would like to speak, or any of the staff have any comments on ways we can do things better, or if there were anything we did to hinder y'all from doing your research, or any of the other processes that you were tasked with through this? Because as I always point out, we couldn't do any of this stuff without y'all support, and I appreciate it, and putting up with us, and especially when I say us, I'm talking about me. But I do thank y'all, especially those in Senate Research, who, when I sent that encyclopedia of questions down there, y'all didn't just laugh at me and send them back. But we did find flaws to where we couldn't, there was information there, we just could not dig it out. And we'll be working hopefully with the governor's office and some others to rectify that situation, so that when we need the information, we can ask for it, because these two gentlemen are successful because they have the ability to pull the information they need to find the answer. And if we all don't have that information, and I'm talking about not necessarily the numbers they look at, but when we don't know how many employees we have, I just can't wrap my brain around that. If I don't know that some politically appointed person on the committee in the middle of South Georgia is getting a reimbursement of mileage of whatever the IRS is and all that kind of stuff coming from state taxpayers, which comes from our budget, as minuscule and aggravating as that may sound, that is something we should be able to look at and see. Um, it's no different than balancing our home budget. As a kid, I thought the right way to do it was to round up everything. So I said, I'll always have more money than I thought. Then one day I realized, yeah, it's not a very smart way to do it. Yeah, it's not a very smart way to do it. So we'll work on that, and we will take up and look at the actuarial studies that the state auditor's office does an incredible job on. And of course, I'm sure they get all giddy and excited with the ideas that state senators come up with during the session. Yeah. I think, yeah, exactly. He's trying to imagine Greg Giddy. That's it. Yeah. Actuarials. Just think of a real boring accountant. That's how bad that gets. But I do appreciate all the effort of everybody, and the members of the committee, the senators that served. Again, I want to thank Senator Orrock for coming to me early, and she and I have always had the ability to discuss things related to labor. We come from very diverse backgrounds, but we found that thread where we both care about the people that do the job and the environment they work in, and those that, and I'll say it, those that are forgotten in the process because they're really out there. And so I appreciate her stepping up with this and giving me the opportunity to do something and to help. And that means a lot to me. Yeah.
On these issues, the universe lined up the stars for you to come in as the chairperson
These guys may
for the
may
retirement
differ.
committee.
Yeah.
And at a time when new ideas and energy are really welcomed to the landscape that we're dealing with, when we look at, as Senator Hickman pointed out, the law was changed 11 years ago, 12 years ago, to strip out COLA from our promise to state employees. So that's a whole piece of work and challenge, I think, before us. And in terms of getting a fiscal note on the number one recommendation at the top of the page of moving towards state facilitated portable retirement savings, that really requires a bill for you.
That's right.
The auditor looks at a bill that had, so you can't do a fiscal note if you're not within the parameters of a bill, what's on paper. So that seems to me the next challenge is working to actually put a bill together that can be changed, it can be adapted, but that can get a fiscal note.
In the model I've looked at that is probably as close to what we want to do and figuring in the opt-in, opt-out issue is what they've done in New Mexico. I think is probably a little more what we're looking at. So trying to break it down, but a lot of these bills, when there are initiatives already out there, they become more of a Frankenstein where we can take the good from all of the past experiences and throw away the bad that they've run into. But I do see this as a vehicle, whether it's the 50 and below employer or whether it's the big employer, where they could plug in some type of instrument into their benefits. And even if this is an employer that does not want to contribute at all or cannot contribute at all, knowing that this is a tool that an employee can take and become competitive in other businesses, where I'd love to see the day where two businesses debated over, one would offer a 4% match and another fighting push back against them with a 5% match in order to get an employee carrying this type of instrument with them as they travel throughout their career. So I think getting something put together will probably happen sooner than later, and we'll work close with Commissioner Griffin and his staff to make sure that we get them exactly what they need, and with Ledge Council and the others. Yes, sir, Senator Hickman.
First of all, you're listening. I appreciate y'all's comments. I remember my mother worked in a sewing plant based all her life,
Mhm.
and they participated in a Christmas club every year. And I continued sitting here listening. I remember how she was so surprised in December when she put away $5 a week and had $250 to spend on us for Christmas. How it just blew her away every year. So that's the mentality that's going to happen with this retirement situation too. The other thing, Mr. Chairman, I looking at AJC this morning, and of course,
What is that?
well, you know what,
Familiar with it.
Covers Dixie like to do.
yeah.
Covers Dixie
You know,
like
till I got elected in this position, I never read AJC. And now through some of your leadership and some of the other guys, I'm reading it virtually every
It's
morning.
the art of war.
Yeah.
Know your enemy's plan.
But one thing we do know in the state of Georgia is our state is growing so fast with so many jobs that
Mhm.
we are running out of people.
Mhm.
And in order for Greg to attract great people to work for him, we've got to address the benefit package and the salary package of not only his sector, but also of all of Georgia. And that's what this whole thing's about, is treating people right, paying them a fair wage, and giving them the benefits they need in order for us to continue our growth the way we are. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was just, New Mexico, which you referenced a
Right.
couple minutes ago. That's the state in blue, because they do a combination voluntary payroll deduction, IRA, and marketplace.
Right.
And so that's, there's a model out there.
That's right. And it gives us an opportunity to have something that's pretty flexible and we can work with. And once we get rolling with it, I'd love to continue getting input from these gentlemen, of course,
Right.
and John at, the university system and others so that at some point, and of course, Mike and his intelligence, but at some point, I think with all the examples we have, we can craft an almost, perfect thing that would, to go to Senator Hickman, we're running out of people. So our businesses have to start being competitive. And I don't care if your job's picking up scooters and charging them overnight, or if you're designing airplane engines at Pratt Whitney,
Come on.
which happens to be in my district. Thank you.
I did not know that. I did not
But
know that.
you're important and you're valuable. And to do that, you have to have something you can lean back on when you're my age and not as fast as you used to be. But I want to thank everybody for their contribution. I want to thank everybody for their time and effort in what I believe to be genuine concern about this. And if there's nothing else, yeah, well, as I had everybody talking, and I think the only thing I heard about any even thought about change came from John, who was talking about the opt-in, as in reading the report. I know it's somewhere in the report, it does discuss opt-in or opt-out. I think it was under Michael's testimony, Mr. Garner's testimony that came up. But
I don't think anything needs to be changed.
okay, good. So I think right now, if there are no major changes, and like I said, continue to read through and of course, they'll do their part for Scrivener's errors and things of that nature. But I've not heard any dissent from anybody on the committee from the recommendations. Is that correct? Okay, so I think we'll just move forward that way. And if there's nothing further, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.